Hey, good morning, everyone. Sorry about doing this on Sunday morning, but my schedule is really crazy right now. We've been doing a lot of events. I'm actually up in Okanagan right now. This is day 24 of a 25-day tour called the Freedom Tour, where I've been doing about 50 stops over that time. And today I've got 4 stops ahead of me. Um, and then I'll be headed somewhat south this evening. But I wanted to share this information in regards to, lies that are being told about me on this campaign by the other candidates, specifically Tiffany Smiley. And I don't want this to come across in any way as an attack on her. I'm just sharing the facts. I am an engineer. I don't have any reason to attack my fellow Americans. Even with Dan Newhouse, he's welcome to come home and be our neighbor once again. But I feel like, from the standpoint of him as a representative for us in Congress, he's lost our trust. And so I just want to be transparent with that. I don't want to be in a position where I'm winning because I'm cheating. And I used to be a NASCAR driver. I raised my boys racing, and we had many times where we had very quiet drives home, so oftentimes long drives from various races that we went to, where competitors were cheating, or they were just unscrupulous or very unskilled, and they made mistakes that cost us dearly, or cost my boys dearly, in terms of their results on the tracks. But we never cheated. There was one time that we were disqualified for an engine. It was the only time that it had ever happened, and it wasn't even our fault. We had bought a brand new engine that the manufacturer had made a change in the engine that didn't meet the rules. It wasn't anything that we did. It was actually a newer engine than the rules were a couple of years old. And so we're very sensitive to that stuff, and I think it speaks to character. And so I'll also say, I think as I go through this, you'll see that Tiffany Smiley has just found herself in a rather difficult situation, and I feel bad for her, to be honest. And so I think she's unfortunately gotten herself compromised as a result of the circumstances, probably more so than, her desire to be as disingenuous to the voters and as unscrupulous as she is being with the things that she's saying. So let me just run through what the things are that I have heard. These are just the ones I came up with. I have a few notes here. Just walking through the tour, and a lot of people that support me very strongly are still in a position where they will see her, or they'll be in a meeting with her, and they'll listen to her talk. And she is quite convincing, even though she's lying. We'll talk about more about why first. But I have 5 things written down that she has said specifically. And if you're going to be around her, you could ask her about these things and just see what she says. But the response is just simply unserious. It's unbecoming of someone who's running for public office, and she's just flat out lying. And my aim with this is not to ruin her life or something. It's just we need to stop sending people who lack integrity to Washington, D.C. We need to stop sending people who are compromised to any elected position. We need to start sending people that have a heart's desire to defend the things that are quite important to us and to our future as Americans. And so that's why I'm doing this. So here are the 5 things I've written down, and I'll just run through them real quick, and then I'll give you a little bit of detail on each one of them, and then I want to talk about how we got to where we're at. Maybe I should talk about well, let me just run through these. So she says that I'm a vegan, and that's a problem. And I think in today's world, she's using that because there's such a sentiment against fake meat, which is disgusting, by the way, and all these people that want to eat bugs, which I don't think are actually very many, but obviously these are all lies. Next one is that I want to tax meat, ignoring the fact that we raise cattle on our property. big mistake there. That I want to tax sugar. I don't know where that one comes from. I'm definitely more of a savory person than a sweet person, but I'm not a taxation person. I don't think President Trump would endorse someone who is a fan of taxation. Um, she says that I can't win. That's an interesting one. And she says that Trump doesn't even know me. Not true. Uh, let's see. Before I go through those in detail, let me just explain how she's compromised. And again, I want to say that I feel bad for her as a fellow American because she, I guess, her professional resume is encompassed in a short time that she was a nurse, which I think is a great honor. My mom was a nurse for about 40 years. I think Tiffany Smiley was a nurse for a very short time. I think there's question on whether or not she even had a nursing license. It was such a short time, but I don't know anything about that. Um, and they're in a situation right now where their income is from the government, as it should be. Her husband was grievously injured in a battle situation in war, and they deserve to be funded by the government. And I'm sure it's probably not a tremendous amount of money, probably not nearly as much as it should be for the suffering and the ails that they've been through. But the point is, they have little kids at home. She can't work because she has to take care of the kids and her husband, and they just have this government income that they have. And so uh, her Senate race from the last cycle, her political consultants, which are often just incredibly evil people in this industry. There's a reason. The reason why they call this a blood sport isn't always because of the candidates. It's more because of a lot of these people circling around the candidates that create these circumstances that are very difficult. Well, her political consultants got her over $1 million into debt. They raised over $20 million for her Senate race, but they spent over $1 million more than what they had. And so the responsibility for that debt falls on Tiffany Smiley, who just has this, really, probably reasonable income that's providing for her family. And so how is she ever going to pay that back? That's a difficult situation. And it's one that really falls on the backs of her political consultants. But at the same time, the candidates are responsible. Leaders are responsible for what's going on. Tiffany Smiley doesn't have the experience professional experience to really fulfill the obligations in a way that is exemplary, because she just doesn't have the life experience. Much of her life, out short of a few months, or however, I don't know how long it was that she was a nurse, but short period of time that she was a nurse out of her training to become a nurse, and then getting married and stuff. Pretty much from there forward, she's been caring for her husband and advocating for her husband. And working on that. So I'm much older than her. I have much more experience. I have decades of business experience. My kids are grown, married for 28 years, and just incredible breadth of life experience, including serving in the military, which she never has. So it's a tough situation for her, and I feel bad, but it puts her in a situation where she becomes vulnerable to people who need something. And along comes Dan Newhouse, and she's met with Dan Newhouse at least 2 or 3 times over the last cycle. So over this last year and a half. And I know at least 2 of those meetings were in Washington, D.C., and one of those was the week before filing, which was just a few weeks ago. And she had not filed yet. I had already earned President Trump's endorsement, the Washington State Republican Party, the House Freedom Caucus, many members of Congress, Kash Patel, General Flynn, Roger Stone, Wendy Rogers. The list goes on of all the great, amazing patriots that have endorsed me because they know that I have integrity, that I have the fight within me to stand up for this country, that I have a military background, that I've already been successful. I'm not trying to be something. I'm trying to do something. And that's wildly different than what you see in these other candidates. And so Newhouse was in trouble. The week before filing, he was 17 to 19 points behind me in the polls, and he needed to throw a Hail Mary. The Hail Mary was to get someone else in the race that had a significant enough name that they could take enough votes to potentially give him a shot at getting through into the primary and potentially having that opportunity to be in the general. As it turns out, it really wasn't necessary, because 4 Democrats ended up getting in the race, which Newhouse would not have known about that. But had he known there's 4 Democrats and an independent, then the story would have been different, because with that many people getting in, they would have split the vote enough to where only him and I would have gone through to the general anyways. But ultimately he would love it if Tiffany Smiley could get through the primary and into the general, and that's just not going to happen. So so let's see. So that week prior to filing, Tiffany Smiley flew to Washington, D.C., and she met with Dan Newhouse. And she says, as I said in one of my comments, she says that Sessler can't win. She thinks that I can't win, even with the intense stream of endorsements that I have, the fact that we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, the fact that we have, thousands of signs and over 1,000 volunteers across the district. She claims that we can't win, and her response to that is to enter the race. Interesting. The problem is that the facts just don't weigh out. Dan Newhouse needed someone to split the vote. Tiffany Smiley needs to figure out a way to pay off $1 million in debt. It doesn't take an ATF agent or an FBI, if you can find one with integrity, agent to figure out what the scenario is here. So the thing is, you have to ask yourself, why would she fly to Washington, D.C. to tell Dan Newhouse, as she says, to say, well, I'm going to get in the race? It's like, that doesn't make much sense. If you're going to get in the race, you just get in the race, right? You don't need to tell the incumbent that you're going to get in the race. What are you going to threaten him? Or are you going, you're just going to have lunch with him? Or it just doesn't make any sense. In fact, it's very likely that the incumbent wouldn't even accept the meeting if there wasn't something else going on. And the truth is, Tiffany Smiley talked to a friend of mine. I won't say who it is, because I don't want it to get back to that person, but she told this person that Dan Newhouse panicked when I got President Trump's endorsement because he knew he was going to lose. And that's the truth. And he needed to do something. And so the panic button he hit was recruiting Tiffany Smiley to get in this race. And of course, she has motivation to do it because she's financially compromised. Which, by the way, Dan Newhouse is also financially compromised, as if he hasn't done enough to harm us. He's wanting to hold on to this power, this reign of power, because the thing that he has finally been successful at is building his personal wealth. He went into Congress, and this is all public record. Even as a candidate, I have to file a public disclosure document explaining exactly what the details are of my finances. When Dan Newhouse went into office, he said he was worth about $700,000. And now he's the top 25 wealthiest people in Congress, worth an estimated $27 million. So, how does that happen in such a short period of time on a fairly low salary? It just doesn't make any sense unless you're trading stock, like buying Raytheon 2 days before you sign a $95 billion aid package to go to Ukraine and Israel, which he did. Let's see. So that kind of covers some of the backstory and some of the details. I've not said anything here that was untrue. I'm not even attacking either one of them. I'm just telling you what the truth is. I don't like the negative aspects of this campaigning any more than you do, but the truth is the truth. So let's talk about the lies that she's telling. And I just want to go through these briefly because it's important. She says that I'm a vegan. Here's the truth. 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and they gave me a 5% chance of living. For 10 years after that, I ate a primarily raw, fresh, organic, healthy diet. because I didn't do conventional medical treatment. It's ironic that someone whose only notable aspect on their resume is to be a nurse who would hammer a terminal cancer survivor who God literally healed through eating a very healthy lifestyle, juicing, eating lots of fresh organic agricultural products that are grown right here in our district. And she would somehow hold that against me. It's just irony at its very best. That was 25 years ago. The last 15 years, and I won't go into the medical details of it, but for reasons that made sense to me, at the 10-year point, I started eating fish, especially, but some animal products, not a lot, but some. And what I found out is that the fish oils were really good for my skin, and they helped me a lot. And then I really got to a point where I decided, and this is kind of the trick that my family has used and we raised our kids with, and that we follow still to today. If you come to our house, you will find mainly very healthy foods, very healthy stuff, because we eat at home most, and we snack at home most, and we know that we're either going to live or die from a health standpoint based on the things that we keep in our home. And so we try to be really disciplined and hold ourselves accountable at home. When we go out, we just eat whatever we want. And I'll tell you that when you go out, there's a scenario here that most people don't realize. When you avoid a lot of packaged foods and processed foods at home, you avoid them almost entirely, because when you go out, you almost never eat packaged or processed foods. You eat more whole foods, things that are made fresh. And that's just the way it is. And so I think one of the big issues with our diet is all of these packaged and processed foods. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of backstory. But basically what's happening is they're taking a piece of my history and they're miscommunicating it. They're only telling you a portion of the story, and basically the portion that sort of fits their narrative. And in that, they justify what they're doing because they want to win more than anything else. And it's sad because I think that sort of methodology is obvious among people who maybe haven't won a lot in other areas of their life. I've already won. I've failed at more things than I've succeeded at, but I've won wildly in my life at the things that really matter. The most important thing that I will ever do, and the biggest success that I will ever have, is the success of my family and raising kids and being married for 28 years to an amazing woman, and doing all of that underneath an amazing God that has blessed us immensely. So there's nothing else that I'm trying to do. Again, I'm trying, in other words, I'm not trying to be something else. I'm trying to fight for the American people. I'm trying to do something good. And I understand how the system works and will be a strong advocate for it. The next one is, that I mentioned earlier, she said that I want to tax meat. I don't even know where this came from. Same as the next one. I want to tax sugar. I'm totally against taxation. In fact, there's a interesting program called the fair tax, which essentially eliminates all tax except for a retail tax that goes on when you buy things, and that would apply to everyone. I think it's a great program. I think it simplifies things. It abolishes the IRS. It gets rid of a lot of the just ridiculous taxes that we face. And so again, they're telling you part of the story, as a result of that. I talked a bit about the comment where she tells people that I can't win. The struggle with that is this. No, not one of us would look at a scenario of Sessler against Newhouse and seeing Sessler as the underdog, if you want to see it that way. It's not actually true. We were 17 to 19 points ahead before she got in the race. The calculus is, how many of the Democrats will vote with Newhouse in the general, which could have an impact. But I still think that we will be far enough ahead that it wouldn't matter. And I'm not sure how many Democrats would hold their nose and vote for a Republican anyways. So that's an interesting thing. But not a single one of us would respond to that scenario by saying, well, I'm going to run. Sessler can't win, so I'm going to run. But evidently that's how Tiffany Smiley thinks. And so again, I called her out on going to Washington, D.C. and meeting with Dan Newhouse. She admitted it because she had no choice. I mean, literally, she was in D.C. on her Twitter feed, so she can't delete that. And she doesn't know who I've talked to confirm that she was there and that she met with him, and that it wasn't the first time that she's met with Dan Newhouse. Uh, so uh, so anyway, the idea that I can't win is just lunacy, and the idea that the response from any person would be, well, I'm going to run because Sessler can't beat Newhouse. Nobody would say that. Everyone would say, okay, well, I'm going to help Sessler. I'm going to donate to Sessler. I'm going to go knock doors for Sessler. I'm going to call my friends. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he wins so that we aren't forced to vote for a traitor again. That's how normal American people respond. And then the final one is she says that Trump doesn't know me. It's so laughable. I've been to Mar-a-Lago. I've met President Trump. President Trump has endorsed me. President Trump doesn't endorse people that he doesn't know. Uh, it's just crazy. I won't go into it, but the vetting process in order to get President Trump's endorsement is pretty crazy. He puts a lot on the line when he puts his mind out to endorse people. He has sent public messages out me on True Social multiple times. So this is just a straight up pure lie. And if you listen to Tiffany Smiley talk about how much she wants to support President Trump, it's like, yeah, I bet she does. But I'll tell you this, President Trump is not happy with her. The reason why he endorsed me when he did was because he knew, and this was in some back and forth discussions, that it would keep the field from getting too big. It would keep other people from getting in the race. So the very thing that he endorsed me for, I mean, part of the reason why he endorsed me was what she was violating. And it's irritating that she runs around, talking about, wearing her MAGA hat and talking about supporting Trump when Trump already made a decision in this race and we had the race won, and she steps in to potentially mess up this race. So anyway, I've got to run. I have to have about an hour and a half drive to get to an event, the first of 4 I'm going to do today. But I wanted to get this information out to you. Thank you for those who are watching. Again, I started with apologizing for doing this on Sunday morning, but I know that it gets recorded and is available for others to watch. And so I wanted to get it out there so you could see it. And just so you know, friends of mine, in fact, one friend who owns a barbecue company called me really ticked off a couple days ago because of this ad that he saw about, Smiley calling me a vegan. And he said that he talked to his vendor, and we're going to do a video on Saturday about this, but his supplier is giving him a rack of beef ribs, and he's going to smoke those on Saturday, and then we're going to do a video eating those and having a good time just to kind of counter this lunacy. So anyway, God bless you. Thank you for your support. It's time to save America. So let's go fight.